They whisper on my pillow, leave the winter on the ground. Wake up lonely to air silence in the bedroom and all around. You touch me now, I close my eyes and I dream away. Must have been love, but it's over now. It must have been good, but I lost it somehow. Make believing we're together, that I'm sheltered by your heart, and in and outside I turn to water like a teardrop in your palm. Now it's so hard interstates a dream away. Must have been love, but it's over now. It must have been good, but I lost it somehow. Must have been love, but it's over now. It's where the water flows. It's where the wind blows. It's where the water flows. It's where the wind blows. Must have been love, but it's over now. Must have been good, but I lost it somehow. It must have been love, but it's over now. From the moment we touched till the time had run out. It must have been love, but it's over now. It was all that I wanted, now I'm living without. It must have been love, but it's over now. From the moment we touched till the time had run out.
I met you a year ago. We were standing there. You were all alone. I was caught up in the past. I couldn't let go. You were at my door. There was nobody home. As we were right now, what we had, I hold you now in my arms, need you now, so don't let go. someone's car. Watches the light fades and it covers up our scars. Patience beside me. You wrap my door, and as you go in, I hear your call. As we look back now, what we had, hold you now.
Comfort me, 'cause I'm afraid I might embarrass myself. It won't bring out the best in me. I'm so tired of myself. Just meet me on the roof at 8. I'll be by the fire escape.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of this year's Seriously Entertaining. Woo!
So nice to see you all out here tonight. I'm Lucas Whitman. This is Amanda Foreman. We're your co-hosts and the co-founders of House of SpeakEasy, and we're thrilled to have you all out here tonight. We are a literary nonprofit devoted to connecting communities and readers, and we do that up here on stage with these wonderful shows. We do that in New York City schools, and we do that with our bookmobile, which Bill's going to tell you a little bit more about.
Oh, okay. Here I am. Hello, everyone. So the big thing about the bookmobile is that on the 1st of October is the Brooklyn Book Festival, and it is also the kickoff of the Banned Books Odyssey, organized by New Republic. We obviously always have our stand at the Brooklyn Book Festival, and here's the really cool thing. We are inviting all of you to give us your banned books. Come to Brooklyn, come to the book festival, and donate them to us, and then we will spread them around the country. I know, but wait, get this.
Wait, just to be clear, these are not books that you would personally ban, but rather books that other people are banning that you think shouldn't be banned. Just to clarify.
Well, that is so true. And did you know it is literally every book you've ever liked, from The Hungry Caterpillar to Fahrenheit 451. So it's all of it. So yeah, come on down and bring it, because I know you all have boxes of books in your cupboard, not know what to do with it. Give it to us.
And then those books will go across the country and be distributed in the communities where they are banned and be brought to readers who don't have access to them. So please join us on October 1st.
Yes. And then let's just tell them about the 2,500 students and the books that we're giving away.
This is part of our book truck when we're not handling banned books. Several times a week throughout the year, our book truck is out in the streets of the greater New York City area, handing out over 20,000 books. Some of them are banned, some of them are not banned. But check out our book truck and please join our efforts there. We're thankful for all your support. And now on to our show tonight.
Okay, so tonight's show is called Fortune Favors. Yes, it does. Fortune does indeed favor often the brave, but also sometimes the cowardly. And I have to say, as many of you have noticed, why do I have a cane? Well, I recently had foot surgery, and for those who had said to me that in the end, we all end up resembling our mothers. This is not the way I imagined it was going to be, I'm telling you. But, all right, so without more ado, our first speaker tonight is somebody who I have plagiarized freely from. And since one of my former editors from the Sunday Times is in the audience, you did not hear that. I'm just saying. He has an expansive knowledge, which is not just encyclopedic, but it is one of the finest examples I know of lateral thinking. And maybe that's what you need in order to make a lottery run the way the people who like lotteries to run. That's the way they do it. Because Jonathan D. Cohen is an expert on the history of gambling in America. A very contentious subject. And one could say that actually everything in this country is a crapshoot, not just the lottery. He is also the program officer at the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and the co-editor of All In, The Spread of Gambling in the 20th Century United States, and the author of For a Dollar and a Dream, State Lotteries in America. And this is what the journalist Michael Mechanic has said of him. It's just fascinating, and his book, For a Dollar. This book is a window into the nation's hot mess of humanity. Yeah. Our tribal tendencies, social hierarchies, economic insecurities, political chicanery, religious delusions, aversion to taxation, that's certainly true, and deeply held beliefs about work, fate, self-reliance, the deservedness of our fortunes for good or ill. Ah, so true, so eloquent. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan D. Cohen, woo!
Hi, thanks everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm just looking forward to the time when they realize what a mistake it was to not only have me, but to ask me to go first. So fortune favors. Just in case any of you happen to be my dad and fluent in Latin, you'll know that fortune, the word fortune, comes from fortuna, the Roman god of luck and chance. And sort of what better sort of embodiment, the sort of quintessential embodiment in American society of luck and chance than the subject of my research, the American lottery system. So let me start just with maybe a brief show of hands. How many of you have heard this idea, this concept, that the lottery is a stupid tax or a tax on people who are bad at math or a poor tax? I actually can't see you all very well, so I'm just going to assume every single hand just went up, which is perfect. So I'd like to sort of dissuade and see if I can sort of poke some holes in the idea and sort of change our thinking about, again, this sort of quintessential vehicle of chance that we have in society and what it really means to all of us and then those who participate in it. Just to sort of set the stage, so we're all sort of talking about the same thing. Americans spend $108 billion with a B on lottery tickets every year, which is more than they spend on video streaming services, concert tickets, books, and movie tickets combined. Half of Americans buys a lottery ticket at least once a year. 1 in 8 Americans buys a lottery ticket at least once a week. And so over the course of my research, I spent a lot of time sort of going to different states with lotteries, and I guess this is what research is these days, is hanging out in convenience stores, talking to people about their sort of lottery experience and why they play and what they play. And I'd like to just sort of briefly introduce you to one of these lottery players in Chicago. His name is, who I'll say is sort of perfectly prototypical, like designed in a lab to be the perfect lottery player and the perfectly statistically representative lottery player. His name is Leo McCord. He's an African-American man in Chicago in his early 70s. Went to college for a couple of years but didn't finish. Worked for a few years or many years for the city of Chicago, but sort of middle to lower income. And Leo has played the Illinois lottery every single day since 1974. Since the day it started in 1974. And he has a couple different tickets that he likes. He buys some Powerball tickets, he buys some Mega Millions, he buys scratch tickets. But the real games that he likes are the 3- and 4-digit daily numbers games. He has 2 lucky numbers, if you want to write these down, 2045 and 916, which he's insisted they haven't done anything yet, but he's sure any day now they're sort of due to hit. And in 2007, he actually won $100,000 in the lottery, most of which he used to fix up his mom's apartment, buy himself a car, nothing too flashy. But even with that windfall, he knows that he's lost more than he's won over the course of the last 50 years. And he sort of justifies his lottery play in a way that I think it's hard for someone who doesn't play the lottery to understand. He justifies his lottery play as saying, some people buy concert tickets, some people buy alcohol, some people go to the movies. I just play the lottery, and I spend a lot of time sort of strategizing, dreaming about what I would do if I won, things like that. Again, and what he gets that I think doesn't sort of show up on the stat sheet is he gets a lot of value even from losing tickets. Right, from the days, the minutes, the hours, that sort of the chance he has to dream of what it would be like if he won the lottery. That some people are willing to dream about winning the lottery even without a ticket in their hand, but some people sort of really feel like they need that skin in the game, and that's Leo. And when I say that he's statistically representative, I really mean it. 80% of lottery sales in the country come from the top 30% of lottery players, and that group looks exactly like Leo. It is disproportionately lower income, non-white, less educated, and male. So I said I was going to poke holes in the idea that the lottery is a stupid tax or a poor tax, and all I've done so far is provide evidence that it is a poor tax. So let me sort of try to pivot a little bit. In that, what I think is actually happening here, in addition to this sort of entertainment that lottery players get from their games, is players turn to the lottery because for many of them, it is nothing less than their last, best, or only chance at the American dream. They have come to reason, correctly or not, but they've come to reason that through the traditional economy, through their work, through entrepreneurship, they have no chance, zero, no chance at a better life, not to mention at wealth. And the lottery at least offers some chance at all of those things. So this isn't like Leo failed a high school statistics class and now becomes a lottery player because he doesn't know how probability works. I promise he knows the lottery probability a lot better than probably everyone in this room. What he's done, though, and millions of other people like him, is reasoned, I think somewhat correctly, that really it offers very, very distant odds, but at least it offers some odds that they're not going to get anywhere else, and they can't find anywhere else. So again, this is not like some irrational belief. He sees it clearly. He knows clearly just how bad the odds are. And let me just for reference. So tomorrow night there's a $700 million Powerball drawing. Okay, the odds of winning Powerball or Mega Millions, very similar, are 1 in 302 million, or roughly 300 million, which is just incalculable. I guess it doesn't sound that big, but it's incalculable. Okay, so the odds of winning a Mega Millions, for example, is if you took an ant, put it onto 4 football fields, and stabbed a needle into the ground. Right? That's your odds of winning the Mega Millions. So yeah. Okay, but let me get another show of hands. How many people here have bought at least one Powerball Mega Millions ticket when the jackpot got really big and it gets on the news when it's $1 billion? Again, every single hand has gone up. I can't see you all. That's perfect. So I understand that sort of orders of magnitude, right, of difference. Of you're playing, $2 once a year, right? You're in that 50% of Americans who buys a lottery ticket once a year, right? You're playing an orders of magnitude difference than someone like Leo McCord. But really, if we're all being honest with ourselves, you're engaged in the exact same type of thinking that we sort of condemn when we have among lottery players. No offense. Lottery. What you're doing, what I think the human mind is prone to do when we have these sort of incalculably long odds and unfathomably large sums of money, right, is to dream, right, and to engage in sort of wishful, hopeful, maybe mathematically irrational thinking about sort of underestimation of how bad your odds are and overestimation that you're going to win and what it would do for your life. For the record, don't get me started on people who will buy a ticket for $1 billion jackpot, but not $700 million, as if that's not enough to change their life. Okay, but I'm saying what Leo does and what sort of is condemned, right, in some circles by sort of poor people like Leo is something that we all sort of exhibit. Right, when we are willing to buy our lottery tickets once a year, even if we see it as a lark and he sees it as something else, we're really sort of engaged in the exact same type of thinking. And let me do you one better. The reason we have lotteries in the first place is because states policymakers, voters, engaged in the exact same type of wishful thinking that a lottery would solve all of their financial problems. So what you had going back, 60 years was government who wanted, or states who wanted to fund services, voters who didn't want to pay taxes, and this sort of belief, this states that just basically bet on betting as a silver bullet solution to their state's financial problems. And their willingness to sort of take the dreams for a jackpot of people like Leo and hope that those dreams would fund their own jackpot for the state. Okay, and if you think I'm exaggerating, I promise in 60 years of sort of lottery history, because that's a thing, you never get a politician who gets up there and says, a lottery's going to be great. It's going to provide 1.7% of the funding for the general fund. Okay? What you get are folks like Congressman Cornelius Gallagher from New Jersey, who in 1968 said, quote, with a lottery, we could abandon all taxation in New Jersey and increase every service in our state 4 times over. Okay? This is like really like how it started. And then it sort of, okay, it doesn't work in New Jersey, but I'm sure it's going to work for us in Connecticut. And then it doesn't work in Connecticut. It's like, oh, I'm sure it's going to work for us in Georgia. And then lo and behold, here we are with 45 lottery states and $100 billion in sales every year because of this cognitive dissonance and this belief, this hopeful, wishful, irrational belief by states, by policymakers, that a lottery is going to solve all their financial problems. Again, very parallel, very similar to the belief that sort of bring Leo to his local convenience store every single day. So I'll sort of close on that, which is that I think that this phrase, this idea of a stupid tax or a tax on people who are bad at math, it really fundamentally is sort of victim blaming. Right? We're taking the sort of the losers in the economy who don't see other chances to get out, and they've got one chance, right? They've got this one chance that they see it provided by the state, and we basically call them stupid for trying and for going after it. And I think that's should change or should be rethought in large part because, again, we're all prone to these same types of thinking at the government level, at the individual level, at the personal level. And just to sort of put my cards on the table, I have here in my pocket a ticket for the $700 million Powerball drawing tomorrow night. Thank you. I'm assuming you're applauding because of the winning numbers. But I have it because somebody's got to win, and it might as well be me. Thanks very much.
Okay, first of all, let's hear it one more time for Jonathan Cohen. Woo! Thank you. And for those of you who did just witness me getting up those stairs, I would like to say that was one minuscule step for mankind and one giant leap for me. So, our next speaker is what we call in the trade, a triple threat, in that she's more than I would say just a novelist. She also makes documentaries, filmmaker, and also plays an outsized role in the artistic, literary, and philanthropic life of Britain. And that is all true. However, the thing about Hannah Rothschild really is that the secret source of her is that she sees possibilities. Not just, oh, you can be marvelous, but the possibilities in life, humorous possibilities, which way fortune is going to go. So she once told me this story that in 2012 she was making a documentary about the general election in Britain. And in particular, she was following a Labour MP, a minister without portfolio called Peter Mandelson. And he had given her explicit instructions that they were going to go on a train from Sheffield, and she was bringing the entire camera crew. They were going to interview him, you name it, all worked out. And she gets on the train, and her phone rings, and it is Peter Mandelson. And he says, "Where are you?" And she says, "Well, I'm on the train. Where are you?" And he says, "Oh, well, actually, I'm in Portsmouth." And she realized at that moment that the Labour Party was going to lose the election. And they did. So just a little bit more about Hannah. So she's the author of several novels, actually, including The Improbability of Love, House of Trelawney, I know, woo, and her latest, High Time. In addition to her documentaries, which she has done for not just the BBC, but also HBO and PBS. In 2018, she was awarded a CBE, a Commander of the British Empire, for her services to arts and philanthropy. And in 2021, she was elected to the American Academy of Arts. I know, clever her. But this is Hannah Rothschild in her own words, which really kind of sums her up, actually. It's fantastic. She says, "I treat writing like a love affair. I sneak away from my day job to coffee shops, libraries, and occasionally to hotels. Many writers have strict timetables, but I like to maintain an illicit, romantic relationship with my work." Oh, Hannah Rothschild, give us your relationship. Come on down. Ladies and gentlemen, Hannah Rothschild.
Thank you. I wrote these notes, and I forgot in writing them. I'm actually almost completely blind anyway, and they're very small, so I'm going to extemporize. But it's extremely lovely to be here, and thank you, Amanda, for your very nice introduction. So let's get the elephant out of the room. I was born very, very fortunate indeed. I was born into a very wealthy family. I think you probably know that. So in some ways, I won the lottery at birth, and it's been downhill ever since. What does that mean? I think what it means, and what we were taught as children, is it's not your fault to have been born with such privilege, but it's certainly your responsibility to try and make the most of it. So that's, I guess, what I've tried to do. There was a lot of pressure, I must admit. Don't mess up. Don't ruin the reputation. Make sure you get to the top. Do the best, be the best, because of course that's the lingua franca actually of my family. And that at times was quite difficult. I'm not doing a poor rich girl story, because I'm not at all, but it was difficult, and I did feel that. And one of the things we were always taught about was how the family got there. So how did we get there? And this is a great fortune favours the brave story. Imagine a street called Judengasse in Frankfurt in the 18th century. It was 5 meters wide. It was 100, I'm getting my meters and my feet all muddled up, it was about 100 feet long. There were hundreds of Jewish families who lived there. There was no running water, there was no sewage system, there was nothing. It was so disgusting that people like Goethe and George Eliot went there to marvel at the yellow-faced, decrepit-looking, disease-ridden Jews who were kept confined in there. Mayor Amschel and his wife Guttel Schnapper, wonderful name, had a dream for their children. They actually had 14 children, and they lived in a house that was 10 foot wide. Again, good thing I don't run the family business, because you'll now know about how good I am at counting and numbers. But anyway, they decided to send 5 of these sons off all to the 5 capitals of Europe. Remember, they did not speak a word of any other language. They took with them, they had 1 overcoat, and that was it. 1 overcoat each they'd saved up. And they went to the 5 capitals, this is at the end of the 19th century. By 1815, it was said that no prime minister, no leader, no king, no queen would go to war without the Rothschilds saying they would fund it. So that is a remarkable story of fortune within a very, very short period of time. And sometimes I'm asked, how has it survived? How has it gone on? And there is one reason alone, and it's family. Because those 5 brothers kept in touch the whole time. They spoke as it went down the generations, and this is something that we try not to talk about too much, but they actually even married each other. They married each other quite closely. That has consequences when you get to me, explains a lot. I might laugh, it's true. Now, being a woman actually has disadvantages. We were not allowed to work in the bank. Our husbands weren't even allowed to work in the bank. We weren't allowed to own shares. We were suitable for marriage, for motherhood, sometimes to each other, as I pointed out. But also, we were occasionally allowed to do bookkeeping, because apparently some were pretty good at that. So that was, you know, when I was born and when I grew up, even though the men in our family worked in the family bank or in finance, I was absolutely not allowed to do that. That was verboten, as they say. That gave me a lot of freedom, and my great dream was to work at the BBC at that time. And I could have wallpapered a room with rejection letters, but anyway, eventually I got a one-day contract working for a man who quite a lot of people in this room know, called Alan Yentop. And then it turned into a 2-day contract, and cut to about 20 years later, I'd made lots and lots of films for the BBC. And as I got older, and the story that Amanda told, you know, I was chasing around after all these people with my camera, etc., etc., this kind of awful burning thing arose within me, which is that I really longed to write a novel. I really, really wanted to do that. But I thought that if you'd been born with a silver spoon in your mouth and not a golden pen in your hand, it was not going to happen. I thought novelists are born, they're not made, and I was never going to make it. And, you know, you can't do everything, can you? So it was just a sad thing that was slightly simmering inside me. And the years rattled on, and I was approaching my 50th birthday. And it's one of those, it's quite a momentous occasion for some of us. I was very lucky, I had 3 fantastic daughters. I was on the shelf, like properly on the shelf, and not even being dusted, if you understand. Apart from obviously lots of hugs from the girls, etc., but you know, not necessarily what you want. The novel had yet to be written, let alone conceived. My career at the BBC was slightly stuck. There were lots and lots of younger, brighter, more hard-working people. And for my 50th, a friend of mine said, I'm going to give you a trip to a psychic. So I thought, I'm really not that kind of person, obviously. I went like a rat out of a drain pipe to S199. I went to see a lady called Ivy. And I felt slightly embarrassed, you know, surely I should be, you know, not, you know, relying. And I knocked on the door of this house, and this tiny, tiny woman appeared with a headscarf and huge gold hooped earrings. And the first thing she did was hand out her hand and said, where's the money? So I thought, well, that's not a great start. And I put £50, quite a lot of money in those days, into her hand. And I went into the room, and in the middle of the room, there was a red table, and on the red velvet, on the table, there was a crystal ball, and hanging all around the walls, there were crucifixes. And I was thinking, if I get out of here alive, that's good, okay. Anyway, so she sits down, and she holds the crystal ball, and she goes, actually, I've been told I can't do an Irish accent, so imagine I'm talking in an Irish accent, which I can't do very well anyway, but apparently it's not PC to do that. So she goes, your love life is a disaster. And I thought, well, I didn't need to pay you £50 for that. So, but, you know. But she said, one day, a foreigner will come into your life, and I felt a little bit better about that. And then she said, but I see words everywhere. Everywhere there are words. There are words tumbling from the ceiling. There are words all around you. And my spirits picked up a little bit, I must admit. And then she said, and you're going to write a book, and the book is going to feature a woman called Annie. And it's going to sell hundreds of thousands of copies, and you're going to win lots of prizes. So at this point, I thought I really have wasted 50 quid. Anyway, as I was leaving, she put her hand on my arm, and she held it very, very tightly, and she goes, you may not believe me, but you'll be walking one day, and you'll look, and all you will see is purple. So I thought, okay, right, fine. So anyway, I drove home. I got a speeding ticket, incidentally, that cost more than £50. And didn't really think much more about it. It was quite a good dinner party story, whatever. About a year and a half later, I was walking in Devon, and I walked up over the hill, and I looked over the brow of the hill, and I kid you not, the whole thing was purple. It was violets. There were just violets everywhere. And I stood looking at this thing. I thought, good Lord, I can't believe this. And I went back, and I started writing, and that was my first novel, called The Improbability of Love. And it did actually, I'm happy to say, sell a lot of copies and win a lot of prizes. Downhill ever since. My editor's sitting over here. But we live in hope, Shelley. And it was an extraordinary thing. And do you, by the way, a coda, can I say a coda? I don't have Ivy's number. And the foreigner did walk into my life later. So actually it was incredible. But being slightly more serious, at the heart of all my books are families, because that's the thing I grew up with. So The Improbability of Love was about a woman who only had an alcoholic mother. And House of Trelawney was about a very, very dysfunctional British aristocratic family. And High Time, the most recent book, is about a woman who thought that her family was the problem. And she thought her whole life that actually her whole thing was that her family was trying to destroy her. And when she does end up in a lot of trouble, actually it turns out the family is the only thing that anybody can rely on. So I think I'm going to wrap up by saying what really makes tonight special is that my daughter Clemency, one of the three beloveds, is over there. My cousin Danny is here, his wife Katrina. And if I can take anything away from my writing, it is do be bold, because if I can do it, honestly, at my age, anybody can do it. And you don't need to be born like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah, woo!
Woo. And now, for those of you who've come before, you know what's going to happen next. But for those who are new tonight, we play a little game called Tip of My Tongue. And no more appropriate than tonight for Fortune Favors is the theme. So the fortune will favor one of you people in the audience to take home this book of bags signed by all of our authors tonight. And the game is, you're going to get 3 passages read out loud to you, and you have to guess the name of the work. It could be a song, it could be a novel, it could be a play, and the author of the work. All right? No phones, no cheating, all right? And you've got, compared to winning the lottery, this should be really easy. It's only about 1 in 120 or so here tonight. So this is about as good as it gets for odds in this city, okay? Any questions, concerns? You ready? And tonight's host...
Oh, yeah, okay, all right. So she is, wow, we're lucky to have her. So Hilary Lichter, Hilary Lichter, she has, not only has she written 2 novels, one of them is my favorite, Temporary and Terrace Story, but she was a finalist for the Center for Fiction First Novel Prize and the New York Public Library Young Lions Fiction Prize, and she won in Harper's Magazine the 2021 National Magazine Award for Fiction. So it is just fantastic to have her here tonight for that alone. But the real reason that we have her here tonight is for what she does for us, for SpeakEasy, for the kids in our Speak Together program. So earlier this year, Hilary participated in our student matinee at Talent Unlimited High School. A student matinee is something like this, but for YA, and then afterwards, once they've had this kind of experience, our writers workshop with them and help them discover the power of the written word and ideas in themselves and give them that belief that they can do it as they go forward in high school. And this is what Hilary did earlier this year. So before we bring her on stage, we actually have a little video short to show you her in action. Here we go.
Having actual people who aren't the teachers talking to the students about their work just suddenly makes it seem like your desires and your dreams are possible. Representation is everything. And if you're not able to see a working, functioning, creative person in society, it can be hard to imagine what that might look like.
Growing up, we would hear, it's almost like a myth, stories about authors or painters or dancers, but it's not oftentimes you get those people in the classroom or in the school, and then you get to talk with them in an intimate setting. So I think that's really important.
I find that working with young people opens up a door back into that pure, unadulterated joy at making something that's your own. I was just blown away by the students' questions when we met, and it was so inspiring getting to hear them talk about their favorite books and the work that's inspiring to them.
Through what House of SpeakEasy is doing, you get to see the possibilities again of what's out there and just learn about people as people and recognize how that feeds into artistry. They were just excited, I think, to be in a room together, to be able to just engage in a different way, to talk to someone who just was like, well, tell me about you. Tell me about yourself. Because I wanted to hear more from them.
What I like is how they use their personal experience in it and they were like not afraid to share it.
I really liked how everyone was very unique. The stories are able to inspire me with my lines and giving meaning to my lines.
I think that the stories from today will inspire me as an actor to be very vulnerable in my work and to use my own experiences in my acting.
Hillary. I'm the quiz master, which sounds like the most official job I've ever had in my life. So happy to be here. Thank you to House of SpeakEasy for inviting me. Okay, I've got 3 good quotes for you all tonight. This is quote number 1. Destiny guides our fortunes more favorably than we could have expected. Look there, Sancho Panza, my friend, and see those 30 or so wild giants with whom I intend to do battle and kill each and all of them. So with their stolen booty, we can begin to enrich ourselves. It's a good plan. Okay. Quote 2. Some folks are born, made to wave the flag. Whew, they're red, white, and blue. And when the band plays Hail to the Chief, oh, they point the cannon at you, Lord. It ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no senator's son. It ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no fortunate one. No. Okay. Quote 3. I hear commiserating. That's good. It's a good sign. Okay, this is a favorite of mine. Mr. Collins, to be sure, was neither sensible. God, give Mr. Collins a chance, guys. Come on. He's just a guy in a tough world. Okay. Mr. Collins, to be sure, was neither sensible nor agreeable. His society was irksome, and his attachment to Charlotte Lucas must be imaginary. We've all been there. But still, he would be her husband, without thinking highly either of men or matrimony. Marriage had always been her object. It was the only provision for well-educated young women of small fortune, and however uncertain of giving happiness, must be their pleasantest preservative from want. This preservative she had now obtained, and at the age of 27, without ever having been handsome, God, poor Charlotte. Jeez, these people. She felt all the good luck of it. Okay, thank you all so much.
Good luck, everyone. We're going to take a brief intermission. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, and you can hand your quiz sheets to one of our staff members who are circulating around. Thank you.
and say, ooh, I'm looking for that place. I'm searching for that paradise. Say, ooh, I'm looking for that light. I'm searching for that paradise. The hallowed life on this road. So many years from now, when you turn back around, see the path that you chose, all those forks in the road. Did you lose it or take it? Did you seize or forsake it? So many feel lost, so remember the cost. Comfortable and say, ooh, I'm looking for that place. I'm searching for that paradise. Say, ooh, I'm looking for that light. I'm searching for that paradise. The hallowed life on this road. I'm looking for that place. I'm searching for that paradise. I'm looking for that light. I'm searching for that paradise. Yeah. I'm looking for that place. I'm searching for that white light, bright sky, paradise. Try to be happy, but try not to dwell on what you can't have.
Always wanted to be a child of summer. Maybe that would change my disposition. I've been running around all these years praying for some kind of mission. And I never minded loneliness. In fact, I craved it like a hunger. And now I find myself alone again. And the sorrow takes me under. Born under the full bright moon, I guess that's what made me crazy. Wonder how our love would fade away. Perhaps just got lazy. I never minded loneliness until it came to claim me. So when I found myself alone again, I cried like a baby. Oh Lord, keep the weight off my shoulders, keep the wind at my back. Oh Lord, if I'm not there, am I on the right track? Are you still wearing your blue raincoat, the one that's torn at the shoulder? We used to dance and laugh and sing with no thought of it
Ladies and gentlemen, just want to draw your attention back to the stage here. How did everyone do on the quiz? Too easy, too hard? We'll see after the, we've got two more amazing speakers for you tonight on the theme of fortune favors. Our next speaker is someone we're very happy to call part of the Speakeasy family. In fact, she's such a special speaker that she's actually been on this stage here before in 2017. And I don't quite know the odds on this, but we don't do that very often. We like to bring every show a whole new range of speakers up on stage. But Eliza Griffiths did such a wonderful job last time that we want to have her back here tonight. And she's also did an amazing job at one of our school programs, like you saw in the video, a number of years ago as well, the Edward R. Murrow High School. Eliza is a poet, a visual artist, a novelist. She's the recipient of the Wright Foundation Legacy Award and the Patterson Poetry Prize, and was a finalist for the NAACP Image Award. Her work has appeared in the New York Times, the New Yorker, Tin House, and her new novel, Promised, came out this summer and will be available to buy and have her sign as you exit tonight. In her own words, she's written, "Intuition and wonder guide me at every level of my creative practice. I listen to the ineffable rhythms of what is both lived and dreamt. Across the span of multiple genres, I work against censor and fear, especially inside of myself. For me, the generosity and virtuosity of storytelling is as cellular and breathtaking as the body's involuntary capacity to breathe and to love." Please welcome back to our stage, Eliza Griffiths.
Good evening. Good evening. Hello. Hi. Before I even say anything about this sketchy word fortune, I want to just thank House of SpeakEasy and all of you for being here. And if we can just do a round of applause for House of SpeakEasy. We should clap for like 10 more minutes now. It's fabulous to come back and be here in this space and to just look out and know that I am surrounded with my kind. How often does that happen? So I will get on with it and talk to you about fortune's favor. When I was invited by Aaron and Amanda and Lucas to talk about fortune's favor, I thought, oh my God, this is not a time in my life where fortune's favor is doing me any good, I have to tell you. And this kind of word and this idea, and it's for the bold and stuff, it feels like a Nike commercial, but I didn't get the endorsement. So I really had to push and think about fortune's favor and fortune and what it means. And I loved hearing Jonathan and I loved hearing Hannah speak in these different ways of coming toward this word and this idea and what it might mean. I definitely won't even attempt any kind of intelligent definition, but what I'd like to do is share two things that I found about fortune that I feel I might really speak from my guts and my heart, because those are the things that guide me, my instincts, in everything I do and how I see the world. So I will look at this paper a lot because I'm nervous, and all of you have had much more alcohol than me. And then sometimes I'll just be like, can you just clap? We'll get along just fine. So I'm going to begin. There's a quote by Toni Morrison. Now, you should definitely clap, not for me. Toni Morrison. She has this quote, which is, "It is sheer good fortune to miss somebody long before they leave you." I think it's amazing. It's from her novel, Sula. Clap again. Sula. Great. And I want to tell you a story about that, and it's going to connect to a different kind of angle of fortune. And then I'm going to join the ranks with you and toast to this amazing, amazing experience we're having tonight. So, it is sheer good fortune to miss somebody long before they leave you. So I'm going back. I'm a baby poet, which means I'm completely broke. I can't afford a therapist yet, and I have really great friends, and we travel around in New York in packs. We're at the KGB, we're out on the corner, we're raising hell, and we're amazing, and we're luminous, and we're vulnerable, and we have shit to say. So, October 2012, I'm heading down to Virginia Tech. I have a car, I have access to a car, and gas money, which is great, maybe some food. And I've got a poet buddy with me who has since been abandoned, but that's what happens with poets. As Lucas mentioned, I'm now a novelist. Please note that. Anyway, I'm heading down to Virginia Tech because there is an event there happening called Sheer Good Fortune. Sheer Good Fortune was an event that was held at Virginia Tech, and it was co-hosted by, and I'm going to name drop stuff, but like that's not me because I'm a novelist now. So this wonderful, magical event was co-hosted by Nikki Giovanni and Maya Angelou. Yes, clap. And a wonderful woman named Dr. Joanne Gabin. And so Nikki Giovanni and Joanne Gabin, Dr. Gabin, are still here, I'm happy to say. And Maya Angelou would be here with her throaty chuckle and doing a much better job than me right now, but she's here. And so what they wanted to do was give flowers, early flowers, to one of their dear friends, Toni Morrison. So I'm heading to Virginia because it's going to be fucking Toni Morrison and it's Maya Angelou and who knows who else is going to show up here. But I'm a baby poet and I need to be here. I head to Virginia. I'm there. I'm trying to survive. It's hard. I have just graduated 5 years ago from Sarah Lawrence College. And if you want to talk about fortune, talk about student debt, which is real. So there's that. But I have to be here, and I have to see what's going down with the poets, particularly the Black poets. I hear that there's a green room in this auditorium where we will see Toni Morrison on stage, and I think, time for me to crash. I do this a lot. I get down to this part of the auditorium behind. There's a school. It's like a middle-age school, elementary school. You come in. The ceiling kind of short and low. It reduces you to how you really ought to feel. Shiny, checkered floors, it's that hallway, it's the metallic lockers where people used to throw you into and you'd hide inside. Are there any therapists in here? Great. And so I'm in this tiny hallway and I hear this raucous noise and I'm like, that's the fucking party. How can I get in? And I walk down. I feel like I ought to crawl or like I'm a small creature and I'm vulnerable and I'm very, very broke. And I get to a doorway and the party's in there and there's a threshold and I'm shaking and I'm suddenly really vulnerable. Like, how can I get in there? Do I have to be invited? Will they let me in? Do I have permission? Who am I to try to get into this room? And a head pops up. And it is the regal, beautiful head of Edwidge Dandaka. And she says, yes, clap. Who did that? Clap. And she says, what are you doing in the hall? Come in here. Come in here. And I step through the threshold. And there around me, better than, like, don't even go to Milan for the Last Supper. It's this room, I'm telling you, right? It's Toni Morrison with Angela Davis, with Maya Angelou, with and you're clapping now, Nikki Giovanni, Sonia Sanchez, Rita Dove applying bright electric blue eyeshadow because she is fabulous, graceful, and very Black, okay? And there is food, and I'm hungry because I'm broke. I've had snacks for 10 hours. And so I'm in the room, and I'm smiling, and I want to cry, and I want to burst into tears because I've been seen as a writer, as a Black woman, as someone who's coming to stand in the village. This means everything to me. I spend this wonderful time there. I make my way back to New York, where I've been scrounging around. And before I do that, around 2 or 3 a.m., I call my very best friend, poet named Camila Aisha Moon. And I've had a lot of bourbon, and the stars taste like bourbon, and I'm out in the parking lot, and we've been dancing, and it's great. And I say, one day I'm going to write a novel. One day you and I, we're going to be in a room, and there's going to be somebody out in the hallway, and we're going to tell them, get the hell in here and be at the table with us. And that's going to be us, and we're going to have cool, queer eyeglasses and wild hair. And we're going to be fucking amazing, and people will bring us vodka or anything we want. It'll be great. My friend answers at 2 or 3 a.m., and I adore her, and she is everything to me. And she's always there to pick up the phone, and she says, yes, we're going to write our novels and our poems, and that's going to be us. And one day, when we're 50, like really old, that's going to be us. And now I'm going to share a different quote with you, and I've made a drop because I'm looking at this thing, and I've got like a minute to tell you that there's another quote from Shakespeare's Cymbeline that is this: fortune brings in some boats that are not steered. And I love this, and I love this, and this is the thing that brought me into what I might say to you. On September 5th, my friend would have turned 50 years old. On September 24th of 2021, she died very, very unexpectedly. And I fell under my boat, and I drowned. And I'm still at this moment trying to pull myself up. I have the novel, and anyone who reads Promise will get to meet my friend, but she will never hold my book. And she will never be there at age 80 drinking bourbon on the porch like we promised each other. But what I can say is that I have been most fortunate to be loved and to be loved in this capacity. And that fortune is not transactional, not where I live, not where you are, but it's a thing in friendship that we can give and grow over and over and over to each other. We can steer each other's boats. We can have houseboat parties. We can taste the waves of our future and how we might celebrate each other with such sincerity and such joy and in such grief. And so, as I'm here today with you, I'm feeling a little bit shy and sad and also really, really fucking happy. I'm in love, my book is here, and my friend's alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel Eliza, for that beautiful story. As you can see with Speakeasy, we like to give you a real mixtape. You're going to get the statistics on lotteries. You're going to get some emotional pull. You're going to get all kinds of different things here tonight. So, for our final speaker, we're very happy to welcome to the stage the journalist and writer, novelist, playwright, documentary filmmaker, nonfiction writer. You probably all know him best from his byline in The New Yorker, Lawrence Wright. And I think if you want to understand a good deal of what's happened in this country over the last 25 years or so, you could do far worse than to read Larry. He's written an amazing book, The Looming Tower, which is about the road to 9/11. He's written recently some very important book about the plague years, about what happened during COVID. And now he's given us a novel called Mr. Texas, which is actually out today. So Larry is joining us for his opening night. And Mr. Texas is a satirical, uproarious novel about our politics today, and he's here to tell us a little bit about what fortune favors for him. So Larry, please join us on stage.
Well, thank you. It's good to be back at Joe's Pub. I started a one-man show here, and I remember a guy fell asleep in that chair. Not you. So years ago, I was a young reporter in Atlanta, Georgia, and I went to a party in a swanky apartment. And over in the corner of the room was this big black Steinway. It caught your eye. You know, it's like being in the garage with a Lamborghini and you think, I'd like to take that baby around the block, you know, as if I could drive, right? So out of the crowd comes Joe Cumming, Newsweek bureau chief and mentor to a lot of young reporters like me. And he sits down at the piano, raises the fallboard, and he says, "What would you like to hear?" Those are very powerful words. I said, "Joe, you can play that thing?" He says, "I can play anything I know." Okay, you know, if he said he could levitate, that'd be interesting, but useless, right? If you could sit down at the piano and play anything you know, that would be an amazing thing to do. And I thought, for years, you know, I talked about how Joe could play anything he wanted. And without actually doing anything to achieve that. And then one day my wife called my bluff. She came down with an ad from a newspaper and set it on my typewriter to date myself. It said, "Play it by ear." A class was starting up with this itinerant piano teacher named David Sudnow. David was an interesting study. He had been a professor of sociology at Berkeley. And somewhere along the line, he was a rising academic star, but somewhere along the line, he roomed with an up-and-coming piano player. I think it was Chick Corea. And he had this sort of come-to-Jesus moment I had with Joe Cumming. But he took it a little further. He resigned his position at Berkeley. And 6 months later, he was playing in a yacht club. I thought, this is the greatest achievement I've ever heard of. I mean, you were a mere professor at Berkeley, and now you're playing Tea for Two at the cocktail hour? You know, I wanted this so badly. And so David had come up with a method. He didn't require us adult learners to be able to read music. Instead, he provided pictures of the keyboard with dots where your fingers go. I know it sounds really primitive, right? But those dots where your fingers went, they didn't go on, you know, simple triads like 1, 3, 5, C, E, G. No, you put your fingers on those dots and you had flat 9, raised 11, 13. These are jazz chords. They're very grown up. And it makes you feel really good when you put your fingers in on those sounds. So our first song was Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And this is what it was like to play by the Sudnow method. You look at the chart. Where? Doors were closing all over the house. And so every day I would go through my practice, and after a couple of months, it got to be somewhere over, fucked up again. So it wasn't perfect, but so David moved on, and I found myself sitting on these couches at the University of Texas Music School where my kids were studying cello and violin from the age of 3 and 5. And I thought, what a waste of my time. You know, my kids are learning so fast. I'm grown up. I can certainly do this a lot quicker than they. And so I hired a graduate student at the UT, and while my kids were downstairs, I went up to the practice rooms and met my teacher. And I would walk down this long hallway. Each door contained a little piano, and you would hear Beethoven, you'd hear Bartok, you'd hear Debussy. And I was going down to try to learn a 3-chord blues song. And I mentioned to Jeff, my teacher, I felt a little sheepish being among these 18-year-old prodigies that were filling the hallway with such glorious music. And he said, yeah, open any door and ask them to play Happy Birthday, see what happens. So Jeff got hired by another institution, and I hired a very fine jazz player, George. And, I was fine with George until he made a certain request. Now what is stronger than a request? You have to play in a recital with my other students, all of whom were children. And I went home and I asked my family, so would you come to my recital? Not a single one. I gave birth to these people, and I went to their recitals, but not a single one was willing to go watch Dad do this terrible experiment. So there was in a church, there was a community room with a stage and a nice piano, and I stood off stage with all these kids. I felt like I was 12 feet tall. And out there in the audience were all these folding chairs with other people's families and their video cameras and stuff like that. And one by one, these kids march out with their chests puffed out, and they play flawlessly. And finally, it came my turn. And I walked out on the stage, and I sat down at the piano, and the most amazing thing happened. My fingers turned into water pistols. Instantly, the keyboard was soaked in my sweat. And I got through 4 bars before I forgot the piece. And I started again, and this time I got through 3 bars. Love walked in was a piece, but love walked away in my case. So I got up and walked off the stage as humiliated as I have ever been in my life. And so I decided the problem was the teacher. And I hired another teacher who was even more renowned in Austin as the great jazz player of the city. He was, like many musicians, poor, and so he supplemented his salary by taking on students like me. Not exactly like me, because after a couple of months, he fired me. He said, "You're not talented." He actually said those words. And I said, "I know I'm not talented. I'm persistent. And fortune favors persistence, doesn't it? Not in this case." So I was shattered, really. I took at least a year, maybe a year and a half, where I didn't play the piano at all. But in my mind, I still had this image of sitting at the piano, playing songs with my family and friends, songs that we all love, having other instrumentalists there, jamming with them. It was a deep-seated desire, and I decided I would give it one last chance. And I called a friend of mine, Floyd Domino. Floyd is a country boogie player. He plays with Willie and Merle and Waylon and Asleep at the Wheel. And he said, "Well, come over and play a song. We'll talk about it." And so I went over his house, and I was still too shattered to play in front of him. So he went into the bathroom, and I played a song, and then he came out and gave. And for several months, I would be at the keyboard, and he'd be on the toilet, and that was our relationship. But that was 28 years ago, and in some ways I was right. I was always looking for that singular individual, a teacher, a mentor, who could restore my confidence and help me find a place in the world of music. I know I'll never play anything I know. I will never be that accomplished. But there are places that I can fit in. For instance, I'm in a band now. And we played Joe's Pub. Yeah. That was a real highlight. And it's allowed me to pursue another dream. Lucas mentioned that I had a book published today, Mr. Texas. And thank you. I'm really, really fond of this novel, but it's about Texas politics, which is a tragedy. But I decided I wanted to write it as a musical. And so I'm working with my son, Gordon, and with Marcia Ball, a revered R&B piano player and singer in Austin. And we've recorded 8 songs from our prospective musical that are in the audio book that is also published today. And I am going to play you one of the songs. This song is sung by a lobbyist. It's deep in the lobbyist canon of songs, and he is a young legislator comes to him and asks him, "What exactly do you do?" And he tells her the brutal truth. It's kind of a klezmer blues. I hold the strings on human beings. I make them laugh, I make them dance, I make them cry, they're in a trance. I pick them up or let them fall. I make them walk into a wall. They love me so, I'm all they know. I'm the man who holds the strings. They pray to me down on their knees. They ask me please if they can sneeze. I may say no, I'm such a tease. I hold their hand, I stroke their hair. I am their friend beyond compare. Satisfy their needs, sanctify their deeds. I'm the man who holds the strings. It's a grave responsibility to be someone like me, to have the capability to shape their tiny lives, to break down their disguise. For working with these guys, I deserve the Nobel Prize. I work the floor, I hold the door, I make the rules, I rule the roost. I give the fools a little boost. Make sure they're fed and better led. It's occasionally said I can raise the dead. I get a chill, such a thrill. I'm the man who holds the strings.
Thank you, Larry. That was a great ending. And just so you all know, this is where Lin-Manuel Miranda got started, too, right on this piano. So stay tuned. Big round of applause for all of our amazing speakers tonight. You've been a great audience. Thrilled to have you join us tonight. Unfortunately, the quiz was a little too easy, and so we have 7 winners. But, as you all have learned in the first talk tonight, you can't all be winners. So, only 1 of the 7 can go home with the book prize tonight. And so Amanda's going to choose completely randomly. I'm sorry, but this is how it goes in America.
Better than the Leaning Tower at Pisa, I'm
Yeah.
telling you. Okay, all right. Aha.
The winner is Austin Williams.
Congratulations.
Well done, Austin.
Maybe get the answer.
And then the answers for those of you who weren't among the 7 chosen. The first one is Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. The second one is Fortunate Son by the Creedence Clearwater Revival, the band, John Fogerty. And the final one is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Well done, everyone. Maybe fortune will favor the rest of you at our next show, October 24th. We've got another amazing lineup on this stage. More games, more storytelling. So we hope to see you all then. In the meantime, please buy books on your way out, get them signed by our amazing authors, and check out our programs online and join us on the streets of New York. And come bring your band books on October 1st to the Brooklyn Book Festival. Thank you all for coming tonight.